because this mode of education, and you look into the standards of education across the world, especially in the Muslim countries, the standard of education focuses on, this life. So the sciences, the language, the arts, and how it's going to make your life infinitely better. And in the Muslim world today, even though we don't disbelieve in Allah, we don't disbelieve in a God, we don't disbelieve in the existence of a soul, and we don't disbelieve in the idea of an afterlife, for all practical purposes, we are still indoctrinated into the European education system that was injected into our cultures so long ago, and it still exists today. So if you think about, an average Muslim family, what does an average Muslim family want from their children today? If some guy, some young dude comes up and says, what, I want to get a good education, I want to, get a good job, and I want to be able to marry well, but I want to study some Islam first. And I want to study some Deen first, or I want to study some Quran first. What, parents are going to say what? What job are you going to get? Who's going to marry you? How are you going to live your life? How are you going to earn your money? The ideas that the European Revolution intended were indoctrinated into, generation after generation after generation, received that education because it was never taken out. And the connection from the Deen, the connection from the book, the connection from Allah was severed right there. It was severed right there. So when you look at the world today, the materialism itself, the furthering of materialism, that you focusing on education in this world, you focusing on keeping your body fit, you focusing on making your life here infinitely good, is what is going to further your life in this world. And so the focus then shifts from, I need to learn about Allah, and I need to, know what's violating my soul, and I need to understand how I can make this life, because you only live once, right? How I can make this life better. The focus shifts from all of that needed to be there to all of this, the things that can be seen rather than the unseen. The idea that I wanted to portray today in this very short session is, where does it end? When you continue down this path of what the European Revolution started, of what the intention was of the European Revolution, and how it spread across the world, those indoctrinations into the Muslim community has, when you're focusing on this life more, and you're focusing on your the universe and the body and the making this life better, then where's your time to connect with your book? Then the book itself becomes a book. It becomes a book. And people will come up to you and say, why does it say that in the Quran? It say. They don't say, why does Allah say? They say, it say. The Quran has become a book. It's a book that you bring down. Oh, you're struggling in life, you want to turn back to Allah, just make some dua, read some Quran, your life will be better. Your life will be better. And even there, you think about it, when the reason that people now turn to religion is because somehow they want to further their worldly life, their life in this dunya. So they buy a house, or they start a new business, or there's a new venture, they get married and they have an ameen at their house, right? They make some dua, they read some Quran, and that's supposed to make their life here better. And then all of those, misleading ideas that I've talked about before in some of my sessions, when people think, I'm making dua to Allah, but it's not being answered, because you're making dua because you want to make your life better in this world, which is fine. But then the idea that has been indoctrinated into us is that good stuff happening in this life means that Allah is happy. It means that, so that's what religion has become for, is you furthering your life in this dunya. Furthering your life in this dunya. That is what happens when we become disconnected with our book. That's what happens when we don't understand what Allah is saying in the Quran about life, and how He introduces Himself to us, how He says this is what life is supposed to look like, this is what it's going to look like, this is your default state by nature, and this is what you're created in, this is the way you're going, and how your life is supposed to be this way in this world and this way in the next world, depending on what you do. That disconnection with our book, and our youth becoming disconnected and furthering themselves, digging deeper and deeper and deeper into this system that has been established in the world, of the belief that the life in this world needs to be really good. The life in this world needs to be materialistic, that the more material, the more dunya you gain, the more happy Allah is with you, or the better your deen is going to be, or the more blessed you are. And then, when all of that, this is culturally being brought down, so from father to son to children, and then when, the next generation comes, they get rid of the culture. They don't want to do anything to do with the culture because they think it's backdated, or they think it's so that's where the ideas of, you're wearing hijab, or you have a beard, or you're wearing a thobe, you're backdated, because religion is suppressing you. Religion is suppressing you. So, a woman wearing a hijab or a niqab means that she's being suppressed. And it's not something that she does by her own will, but because she has a belief system, the belief system tells her to do something, and she has to do it. Otherwise, she's going to be shunned out of that belief system, or she's going to be shunned out of her family, or whatever. And then the world has a lot of things to say to that woman. And it's so easy, because now the world in front of you is one thing, but then what you have to believe in is unseen. I leave you with these thoughts to do your own thinking, do your own research, travel further down this line of thought, because I believe that every Muslim in the world, we need to be able to think heavily. We need to be able to know our history. We need to be able to think, what are the sequence of events that led down to where we are today? Why our Muslim youth are going in different directions? Why they're talking about things that should have been talked about in a different way? Why they're disconnecting themselves from the masajid? Why they're not connecting themselves to the book? Why they feel the Jummah is not necessary, or prayer is an option, or wearing the hijab is an option, or why can't I be able to show my hair in public? Why do I need to be? Why is the religion so suppressing? Why is everything haram? All of these thoughts that go through the minds of our youth, we're not going to be able to answer them if we're not able to connect them to their book. And if we don't understand what the book is saying, what the kitab is saying, what the Quran is saying, and how these things Allah beautifully, beautifully describes them in the Quran, then how are we ever going to convey that message in the proper way to our youth? Because the religion today, because we don't know ourselves, because we don't understand it ourselves, when our youth question us, we get angry. How dare you? How dare you say that against your religion? You can't say that. You can't be thinking these kind of thoughts. And parents freak out when a small young girl or a young boy comes and asks, why is this way? Or why does Allah keep punishing? Or why is everything haram? Or because we don't have the answers ourselves, we're not able to communicate that in the proper way. And there's so much more. Like I'll try to get into all of those things gradually here, bit by bit, and try to convey the messages that I feel need to be conveyed. And as far as Allah allows me to, my knowledge is limited, and I know there's a lot more people out there that are more knowledgeable than I am, and I would really appreciate people coming forward and discussing these things more and more. If you want, you can connect with me, discuss with me. Feel free to leave a comment, or start doing your own research and relaying these messages out to the world. That's what we need. We need more and more people to come forward and start talking about the deen. Start talking about what needs to happen, how we are going to connect to our book, how we're going to get our youth to connect to our book, and then what are the ways that our youth we can convey the messages to our youth in the way that they need to be conveyed. Not to suppress them, not to shun them, not to, shout at them and sit them down when they're questioning the deen. They're allowed to question the deen. They're allowed to question the deen. You need to have answers for them. And if you don't have answers for them, then the gap is within us. The gap is within us. And we need to be able to delve deep into our book, understand our book properly so that we have, and not just to answer you need to understand it for yourself. If you don't understand it, then you're not going to be able to do Aqim as-Salah. How are you going to establish the prayer if you don't understand what the prayer is? If you don't understand why it's necessary, what even the word Salah means? If we're not understanding these things, then we're not being able to convey that to our youth properly. And if we're not being able to convey that to our youth properly, then further down the line, imagine what's going to happen to the next generation, and then the next generation, and the next generation, and we'll be questioned by Allah. We'll be questioned by Allah. What did you do? What did you do? Allah says this in the Quran directly. Don't worry about what they're doing. I am in full sight of what you're doing. He's talking to you and me. He's talking to you and me. And this question is going to arise. And Allah is going to ask us this question, and we need to be able to answer that. We need to be able to answer that. May Allah give us that capability of connecting more and more to His book, being able to delve deeper and deeper and deeper into this amazing, amazing book. Our religion doesn't suppress us from access to the Quran. It doesn't. It just doesn't. In fact, you reading Quran in Salah means that you have full access, and Allah wants you to connect to your book. You don't have to wait for the ulama to give the fatwa. You don't have to go to some scholar to understand. Why wouldn't you read the translation? Read the translation by all means. Do your research. If the translation is confusing, go online, read books, ask ulama if you have to. Discuss amongst yourselves. Have halaqas. Bring communities together. Bring people to your home and sit down and start talking about the Quran. We need to do that. This needs to start today. Today. Otherwise, the youth generation that we have coming up, even ourselves, the hope for us is very bleak. It's very, very bleak because our connection to our book has been severed. And I hope that Allah reconnects us with our book, gives us the strength and the ability to be able to do that level of deep thinking and heavy thinking and start reviving the ummah again, inshallah.